A very good morning to all of you and welcome to the class today. This is live virtual class and I am CA Ridhima Bhatia. I request everyone to settle in and let's begin our new topic altogether, heads of income. So all my dear inter students, we begin with the very important and crucial part of your income tax section of the paper 4 taxation, which is heads of income. What are heads of income? First, we'll understand that and we'll proceed with different heads of income beginning from salaries. So the next coming 3 classes would be all about heads of income ka unit 1 salaries. So before we begin, just very basic things. We'll be discussing each topic in details. We'll try to cover questions for each topic. But at the same time, the participation from your side also matters. As we do a question, I would request you to please do it along. I may entertain your query depending upon the time after each topic or by the end of the class. In case any of your query goes unanswered, we'll leave 5 minutes before we switch off our class for the day. But in case any query goes unanswered, you're more than welcome to ask it in the next session. But one thing, students, income tax, you have to know that income tax is the integral part of your life from now on. If you may practice, you may do a job, anything you do, income tax will not leave you behind. So it's very important to understand these heads of income, and the better you understand is by self-assuming that this is the income which you are earning. Okay? So let's begin. So students, heads of income. I'll not come to these things. We'll start with this. So one thing is clear that you, me, all of us may be earning different types of income. The source of income for each one of us can be different. The nature of income for each one of us can be different. Now, at least we all know this basic thing that the income earned during the previous year has to be assessed in the assessment year. You give the tax to the government, you assess your income, you file your return in the assessment year. You file your return in the assessment year. Now, when you are telling the government by filing the return that this is my income, do you just tell whatever is coming in your bank account and give the tax on it? No. You compute your income. And how do you compute your income? Income tax says that we need to know what is the source of income and what is the nature of income. So what you do is you divide your total income and classify them into 5 different heads. 5 different heads. 5 different heads means, in a layman term, 5 different categories. 5 different categories. Now, how do you define them? So one is very common. We must have seen somewhere around us is working, having a job, and thus getting salary. So one such head of income is, okay, one second. So one such head of income becomes salary or salaries. So people who are doing job, going to office, earning an income every month or quarterly, whatever as per the terms of employment, is classified as salary. How do you compute salary? We'll come to this because that is what are all 3 classes about. Then if you are not working, you have your own business. You have your own business. You may be earning an income from it, right? That income is called income from the heads of profits and gains of business and profession, which in common parlance we say PGBP, profit or gains of business or profession. Whatever you're earning in your business, you offer to tax under profit or gains of business or profession. Salary ho gaya, income, business ho gaya. Now, some people are earning huge amount by giving their properties on rent, right? Very common income, which is called rental income. That is also one other category in our income tax under the head house property, which we say income from house property. All of these sections would be taken up in detail, but you need to understand how the categorization happened. Of late, there has been, among youth especially, a rage for investing into assets, specifically shares, listed equities, mutual funds, crypto, etc., etc., etc. So what happened when you sell out those things? Any income from that or any profit from that should go where? Should go where? It is not salary, it is not house property, it is not a business which you are doing, it's just an investment which you are doing. So all those incomes are categorized under the head capital gains. Any profit which you are getting from transfer of your investment assets are called the income from the head capital gains. And so there is another pool of incomes which cannot be classified in salary, house property, or PGBP or capital gain. Then where those income would go? All those income would go under the head other sources. Other sources. That's a residuary head. So suppose interest income from banks. That cannot be salary. No. House property. No. Because I'm not renting anything. PGBP. No. Because it's not from the business. Capital gain. Nothing has been transferred. So it is a part of other sources. Or another example you can take like winnings. You go to Kaun Banega Crorepati and you win an amount, right? Where you would classify that? You will classify that in other sources. Correct? Why categorization is important? Because government should know that how are you earning your income and how that income is computed. So all of these in total would become your gross total income. I'm not going deep into what happens after calculating gross total income, deductions and all. That is everything in income tax is step by step. Understand it. Think that this is you are earning yourself, you will understand it better. So I told you how you compute your income. You take the income from each head, add it, aggregate it to get your gross total income. Okay. Now, income tax में these all are covered from section 15 to section 58. 15 to 17 is your section for 15 to 17 is for salary, 22 to 27, 28 is for your house property, 27, sorry, 28 to 44 is for PGBP, 45 to 54 is for capital gain, and 56 to 58 is for other sources. This is how the sections are divided. Now, each income, each category of income has one thing called charging section. Now, ये थोड़ा सा technical है. Let's try understanding what is this charging section. You cannot tax any income under any head. That head should tell what type of income should come under that head. What did I say? उस head में कौन सी इनकम आनी चाहिए वो हमें चार्जिंग सेक्शन बताता है. द चार्जिंग सेक्शन ऑफ ईच हेड टेल अस व्हाट टाइप ऑफ इनकम विल कम अंडर दैट पर्टिकुलर हेड. Got my point? So the charging sections, you get to understand that what is the crux of income which is getting taxed under each head. So for example, salary ka charging section will tell me what will come under salary. House property ka charging section will tell me what will come or classify under house property. PGBP ka section will tell me what will come under PGBP. Is that clear? So it will, till that time a thing is covered under charging section, then only it will be taxed under that particular head. Okay, so with this understanding, we begin our first heads of income, which is salary. You can understand it from here. Each income is calculated. Now, how each income is calculated, let me give you a gist for it. Sorry, what is this? So you calculate income from salary. Salary में what all will come? Now we'll see कि हर एक head का income कैसे compute होता है. So what all will come under salary? You will take that, you will compute it, and this would be your income from salary. Similarly, house property ka computation will learn कि house property ka income is how house property ka income is calculated. We'll do it, and that would be my income from house property. Similarly, PGBP. We'll calculate, we'll understand the computation of income from PGBP. Whatever would come, that would be my income from PGBP. So this is how we are going to proceed with. Is it clear? And then addition of all these 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, whatever heads of income will come will be my gross total income. Perfect. So back to a few questions which I just got. First of all, very good morning to all of you again who are joining now or have joined earlier. Income of HUF come under which category? So we asked. So should be one thing. HUF is the person. HUF is the person. HUF is not a category of income. Ye sub, all of these are applicable to all categories of income. You will compute different heads of income for all categories of person. We have how many persons? 1 second. We have individual, we have HUF, we have AOP, we have BOIs, we have partnership firms. Obviously, we have companies, firms के साथ we can write LLP. Companies where we have domestic companies, foreign companies. So for all categories of person, they will have or may not have income under different heads. Okay, so how will you write it on the top? You will write it on the top like income computation of Mr. A for assessment year, or you will write income computation of Mr. B for assessment year, or income computation of HUF for assessment year. Obviously, for HUF there would be no salary part, or for firms also for for non-living persons you will not have the salary part, but they may have other categories of income. Clear? Sure. So now let's proceed with our salary thing. Some very important concepts which you need to know before we proceed salary. When is income taxed as salary? The income would be taxed as salary, and this is given in the charging section also. When there is a relationship of employer and employee. Till the time there is no relationship of employer and employee, anything which this person is getting would not be salary. To have the income to be computed under the head salary, it is very important that your source is your employer. जहाँ से आपको salary मिल रहा है, he should be your employer. That income should be from employer. Just merely saying the word salary, I'm getting salary, will not classify it under the head income from salaries. Salary को income from salaries में टैक्स करने के लिए और क्लासिफाई करने के लिए important thing is the person who is giving you that income should be your employer. Ma'am, obviously it would be employer. No. Why? So I'll tell you. If Mr. X is working from 9 to 5 in say Bank of America and he's getting salary every month, he's an employer because he goes as per Bank of America. He's supervised as per the contract of employment of Bank of America. Whatever they say, he does. Okay? He's exclusively working for Bank of America. This is obviously salary. Now, if on the other hand, Mr. X goes to Bank of America on a contractual basis, is on a retainership basis. He gives him their 2 hours time, provides his consultancy. Uske baad, whatever he wants to do, he does. Obviously, there is a contract of service, but he is not bounded. There is no master and servant relationship. There is no master and servant relationship. Then this income would not be salary, whatever Bank of America pays to him. That may be your professional income or other sources income, but not salary income because there is no master and servant relationship between them or employer and employee relationship. Easily, because of this, just because of this fact, the income which a partner gets from his firm, partner hota hai, and that is partnership firm. These are two different entities, right? So whatever partnership firm gives as salary to its partner, salary milta hai partner ko, right? That is not classified as income from the head of salary. Why it is not classified as income from the heads of salary? Because between partner and partnership firm, there is no employer-employee relationship. Partner is the part owner of the firm. He is not the employee of the firm. Employee honge firms mein. There may be some other people who are working for the partnership firm. But partner is not the employee. The relationship is not as employer and employee between the partner and the partnership firm. Clear? Similarly, very common thing which comes to you, the MLAs, MPs also get salary. The member of parliaments, Lok Sabha members, Rajya Sabha members, legislative assembly members, all of them get salary. Very of late, we are also reading Jake's salary. So and so people have increased the salary. So that is also termed as salary or remuneration or wages, whatever you saw. So any salary which is received by a sitting member of parliament, legislative assembly, will not be classified as income from the head of salary. Why? Ma'am, ab isme to this is salary. No. Because MP and MLA में and government में, who is paying the salary, whether state government or whether state government or central government, they do not have the relationship of employer and employee. Employer and employee relationship would be when you are bound by the agreement, when you are bound by the agreement of employment and service, then only there would be an employer-employee relationship. Your work is totally supervised, your movements are supervised by that employer. That is an employer-employee relationship. You do as per the employer. So government and member of parliament there is no employer-employee relationship. Just because they won the election, they got the seat, and now they're getting the salary as a sitting or they're serving to the particular legislative assembly or the area, correct? That is not an employer-employee relationship. But yes, having said that, anyone who is working in the Ministry of Government, Ministry of Government mein you are working. You may know someone who is working in Ministry of Finance, who is working in Ministry of External Affairs. Wahan pe you are working and central government is giving you the salary. that would be taxed under the head income from salary. Is it clear? Take your time to understand, and then we proceed. So existence of employer and employee relationship is must to tax the income under the head salaries. Next, we come to understand full-time or part-time employment does not impact the taxability. You're working there as full-time or you're working there as part-time, it is salary. It is an employment service. The rule here is that there has to be a 9 to 5 job only or an 8-hour or 9-hour shift only to classify it salary. The moment there's a master-servant relationship, maybe you're working from home, maybe you're working only 2 hours a day, it will classify as salary. Clear? Few questions anyone has? Akash says, will illegal earning will fall under their head other sources? Yes. If there's an employer-employee relationship, if it is missing, it should be charged under other sources. For example, income from given to non-teaching staff, invigilator for conducting exam is to be treated as other income. So, Mansha, hi. The income which you get basically like an invigilator in an exam is not salary, correct? Because there is no core employment contract between the invigilator who is going on part-time basis or on just a contractual basis. That may be classified as your other sources income, or if it is her profession to be an invigilator, then it would be classified as business from income from PGBP, which is my income from profits and gains of business and profession. Okay, Chaitanya says the CA gets salary even though he's professional. See, CA is a profession. If after doing CA, you're working in a company or you're working in a firm, you're working anywhere, you're doing job, then it is salary. Freelancer working is not your salary income. Why? Because you're working on a basis of contract. There is no master-servant relationship. Contract, where obviously the terms may bound you. They may say that you have to give the work by so-and-so time, but there is no master-servant relationship. There is no employer-employee relationship. So freelancer would go into PGBP. Yes, Jayant, a person can get both salary income and business income, and those would be classified accordingly. I may be working 9 to 5, and also I may be as a professional, yes, obviously declared to the institute. I may be working as a freelancer also. Both income, freelancing income, PGBP, job income, salary income. Charging section, Tejasvi says that the income from salary, charging section of salary says that only income which is derived from an employer-employee relationship will go to salary. किसी भी head का charging section means that किसी भी head का charging section explains what income would go under that section. Pocket money does not come under the category of salary. What all we are studying is applicable for May 2022 and November 2022. Stipend is considered as salary. Again, stipend, I'll say honestly, would be considered as salary because you are bound as a contract. Neeraj says, obviously, if MP and MLAs, please listen carefully. MP and MLA gets various types of fees, allowances, etc. salary. Agar he or she is just going to parliament, see, Parliament, you have to understand, people sit, and for whoever comes, they are given the salary. Member of Parliament, member of Legislative Assembly, all of them get salary because of the seat they hold. But that member, say a member of Parliament, is also handling a ministry. Say, for example, quickly I'll say Nitin Gadkari. Nitin Gadkari is a member of Parliament, but he's also handling a ministry. He's also handling a Ministry of Roads and Transport. He may get salary because of that cabinet. He's working for that ministry. Then that salary would be salary for that income would be your income from salary, and whatever he's getting as a member of Parliament would be income from other sources. If CA practice in a firm, he's doing profession. He's whatever he's earning is earning because of a profession he's being conducting. So that would be Muhammad Ali would be your PGBP income. I am not telling about what type of my income would be taxed here, but I hope all of your questions are answered. Okay? Next important part is salary taxable if the services are rendered in India, irrespective of the fact if paid outside India. Students, first of all these concepts are very, very, very important. You will get MCQ based question or any technical question from these. Please be careful. Okay? So salary service taxable if services are rendered in India. If you have read section 9, usme salary को tax income accrued in India, you see salaries whenever the services are rendered in India, it would be taxed in India. So let me take an example of Mr. A and Mr. J. Mr. A is Indian person, okay? He goes on deployment by his company for 2 years in America. Okay? Mr. J is a person from Australia, but he's working in India for a period of 5 years. Now, since he's rendering his services in India, his income, whatever income he's getting from the employer would be taxed as salary income because the services are rendered in India. Now, Mr. A, who is working in America, the services are rendered in America. So, because of accruing section, it would be not be taxed in India. But agar he is getting the salary in his Indian bank account that is received in India, then it would be taxed in India. Otherwise, since the services are rendered outside India and he's getting the salary credited in his American account, the income from salary would not be taxed in India. So the moment services are rendered in India, the income is taxed in India. It may happen that you have rendered the services today and you're getting the benefit of that services after 2 or 3 years in the form of pension when you are outside India. Then also the income would be taxed in India. Ma'am, kya bol? I'll tell you. Mr. M has worked in his entire life in India. Once he retired, he went to एक तो countries का नाम लेने के लिए you have to be very careful today. Okay, he went to London. And now he's enjoying his retirement life there. Now, once what happened? Now he's getting pension. He has retired. He's getting pension. Okay. Now, pension from what income? From the services which he rendered in India. From the services which he rendered in India. So this pension, even if he's receiving in London after the retirement, is a salary income. Why? To be taxed in India. Why? Because this is being received for the period of services which he rendered in India. Hence, this pension is also a salary income taxed in India. Clear? Because ये pension उसको मिल रहा है for the services which he gave in India. So the services which are given in India are salary income. So uska whatever benefits you are getting even after leaving the services would be a salary income in India. Next point, foregoing salary once accrued does not make absolve the liability of tax. What is this, ma'am? Very technical. फिर से पढ़ते हैं. Foregoing salary once accrued does not make absolve the liability of tax. Foregoing salary का क्या मतलब है? What happened? अभी COVID हुआ, okay? And so I told my employer that I don't want the salary. Please give my salary for X month or for 1 month to a charitable trust, okay, who is into COVID relief. Give my salary to a charitable trust for, say, the month of January. Okay. So I cannot say that January month ka salary I did not receive, so I will not pay tax on it. I voluntarily gave it up. I voluntarily gave it up to some other person. It was due to be received by me, right? It was due to be received by me, but I chose to give it up. So hence, even if I'm diverting it somewhere, it does not mean that I did not earn it. I earned it. I had a right on it. Hence, it's my salary income, and hence I would pay tax on it. Mainly, I chose to forego it will not save me from the tax liability. Clear? Yes, obviously you can claim deductions on it, but we are talking about the salary part. It will come in my salary part. But if, यहाँ वाला last वाला point, salary surrendered to central government under section 2 of the Voluntary Surrender of Salary Act, it would be exempt. एक particular section है, particular act है, Voluntary Surrender of Salary Act, उसमें if you are surrendering your salary, that would not be taxable. So two different things: diverting your income, giving up your income once you have earned it would be taxed as salary. But हाँ, एक specific act में if you are surrendering your salary, then it would not be taxed. Last part, if tax is borne by employer, then the income from salaries in the hands of employees will consist of salary and tax paid thereon. What is this? Wait. Please, students, अब इधर ध्यान से. यहाँ पे we start with the crux of salary. Salary is not something which you only get in your bank account. What did I say? हर महीने के end में, if you're getting a particular sum, is not only salary. Salary consists of various parts. One is obviously the wage part, okay, the monetary part. Usme there would be allowances, there would be reimbursement, allowances, wages. What else? Wages nahi bologe to salary, basic salary, all those things. Okay, the monetary part. Other part is the benefits part. Please ध्यान से students. The monetary part is there, then there is the benefits part. Benefits, because salary does not only mean the monetary part which is given to you, the value of the benefits, the value, please focus on the term value, the value of the benefits which an employer is providing to an employee. The value of the benefits which an employer is providing to employee would also be taxed as salary. आप उस benefit का value निकालोगे और फिर उसको salary में you will include it. What did I say? Not only what is credited in your bank account is your salary, but any benefit ka value is also your salary. Any facilities ka value which he is providing exclusively to you. Lights देना office में is not facilities, but घर की lights provide करना या घर का घर पे he is providing you something exclusive is a benefit which he is providing, right? उस benefit का we will calculate the value and that value will become the part of your salary. So monetary and non-monetary together becomes salary. But this is clear? Okay. Some benefits ko we will calculate how are these calculated and then we will calculate the salary. So मॉनेटरी टर्म्स पे जो भी हमें अब हमारा सैलरी पार्ट जो सेक्शन 17 और सेक्शन 10 हम साथ में जो पढ़ेंगे उसमें मॉनेटरी में हमें जो भी मिलता है वट एवर वी रिसीव इन द मॉनेटरी फॉर्म इज कंप्यूटेड एंड सम एग्जेम्पशंस आर अलाउड. सम एग्जेम्पशंस आर अलाउड अंडर सेक्शन 10. Section 10 which you read, incomes which do not form part of total income, उसमें salary related exemptions will be studying now. ठीक है. So monetary में we get exemption under section 10 and benefits we calculate as per rules. We calculate as per different rules कि उस benefit को कैसे value करना है. We come to a monetary value of that benefit. We add all of these, we get the salary part. जॉब स्टार्ट होने से पहले, एम्प्लॉयमेंट स्टार्ट होने से पहले यू गेट समथिंग इन रिलेशन टू एम्प्लॉयमेंट और एम्प्लॉयमेंट छोड़ने के बाद यू गेट समथिंग इन रिलेशन टू एम्प्लॉयमेंट विल ऑल्सो बी सैलरी. व्हाट डू यू मीन? So X company said to me, you leave your current job and I will you leave your job and I'll give you rupees 5 lakh to join. ठीक है. अभी मेरा एम्प्लॉयर रिलेशनशिप स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ है. माई एम्प्लॉयर एंड एम्प्लॉयर रिलेशनशिप हैज नॉट बिगिन बट बिफोर ज्वाइनिंग ही हैज ऑलरेडी गिवन मी अ बेनिफिट, अ वैल्यू, अ समथिंग in relation to that employment, has given me something in relation to that employment that would also be a part of salary. The job has started, I have left the job, anything which I'm receiving after that job or after I leave that employment would in relation to that employment would be my salary. For example, I'm receiving gratuity, I'm receiving pension, I'm receiving leave encashment. All of these would be part of my salary. Clear? Now, what was this part which we just read? If tax on salary is borne by employer, then the income from salaries in the hands of employer will consist of the salary and tax paid thereon. Now, understand it. आपके अकाउंट में what is credited in your account as, now think yourself clearly that you're working for XYZ company. ठीक है. Think yourself as you're working for XYZ company. So I told you, you will suppose you're getting, suppose you're getting a salary of 3 lakhs per month in your account, ठीक है, and you're also getting the benefits which is value of 1 lakh per month. Total salary हो गया 4 lakh. इस पे he will calculate the tax. His pay, he will calculate the tax, and as a person, you as a person will pay tax on this 4 lakhs. आपके अकाउंट में as a person will pay tax on this 4 lakhs. Just try to understand it. Very basic thing from your level. When you will go to final level, it will be more interesting. So 3 lakhs coming in your account, 1 lakh with a benefit, total 4 lakh per month का salary जिस पे you will pay tax. You yourself will pay tax on it, right? हम अपना salary पे खुद tax देते हैं. That's why so direct tax we or any income pay we from our own pocket give the tax to the government. But if that tax is given or is borne by my employer, he says कि 4 lakhs पे भी I will give the tax. So supposedly 4 lakhs पे per month tax liability is coming to 20,000. And he's saying that I am ready to pay, bear this 20,000. एक तो वो मेरे को इतना सब दे रहा है, but now he's saying I will also bear the tax. So my total salary would be 4 lakh plus 20,000. 4 lakh plus 20,000. Why, ma'am? Because What did I tell you? Any benefit, any facility, any reimbursement provided by the employer to employee is part of salary. Anything which is given by the employer is part of salary. This 20,000 which he is bearing, even though he's not giving it to me, he is giving it to government, but on behalf of me, is a benefit for me, is a benefit for me. Otherwise, ये किसको देना पड़ता? Who would have borne it? I would have borne it. मेरे pocket से जाता. But now he is bearing it and he is giving to the government, but on my behalf. So my total salary for that month would be 4,20,000, not 4 lakh. Is it clear? So even if he's paying anything on my behalf to anyone, मेरे बच्चों का school fees he's paying. He's paying the school fees to the school directly. On behalf of who? On behalf of me. That school fees would be part of the salary. Why? Because my liability is being disposed of by my employer. That means he is giving me the benefit. He is giving me the benefit. That would go to salary. My hospital expenses are taken care of him. Again, part of salary. Obviously, there are rules how you compute it, but yes, it is salary. He's paying my electricity bill, giving it to the electricity department, not to me. Part of salary. He's paying my phone bills. Part of salary. Clear? Anything, any benefit which the employer is providing to employee, whether in the form of monetary benefits, whether in the form of perquisites, which is perquisites is the meaning is the word which you use for benefits. Okay, whether in the forms of facilities, whether in the form of reimbursement, आपने खर्चा किया, I paid the school fees for my students. Then I went to him and I said that I have paid the school fees. He reimbursed me the school fee. He reimbursed me the school fees. उसने मुझे school fees का पैसा दे दिया. That is called reimbursement. Reimbursement means when I do an expense and I get paid back for it. Okay, so he reimbursed me. So ultimately, who has borne that school fees? The employer. It would become part of the salary. So think yourself as an employee and think of any benefit which is given to you by your employer would be your salary. One more concept and then we'll take up the questions. So basis of charge, our charging section says tax income would only be part of your salary when there's an employer and employee relationship. How will you tax it? It would be taxed on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. What is, ma'am, what is due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier? I work from 1st April to 30th April. Salary gets due on 30th April. Salary gets due on 30th April, but I receive it on 7th of next month, which is 7th May. So it gets due on 30th, but I receive it on 7th. The salary would be taxed on the date of 30th April. Why this is necessary? When we come to the month of March, March closing, salary would be given in April of the next financial year, but it would be taxed in that month. So due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. आपको पहले मिल गया, so it would be taxed earlier, but if you received later, then it would be taxed on due basis, whichever is earlier. But yet, if the salary is taxed on receipt basis, then it will not be taxed again on due basis. If the salary is taxed on due basis, then it will not be taxed again once received. Common sense, right? So when the salary is due or when it is received, whichever is earlier. So this comes to my next concept. If I'm receiving the salary in advance, which happens very rarely, but if I'm receiving the salary in advance on 1st April for the whole month of 30th April, or say for 3 quarters, I'm receiving the salary in advance. Advance salary, पहली April को ही मुझे 3 quarters का सैलरी मिल गया. 3 क्वार्टर्स का नहीं, सॉरी, 1 क्वार्टर का सैलरी मिल गया, 3 months का सैलरी मिल गया. I have received the salary for 3 months. So everything would be taxed on 1st April. Clear? Now, this again comes us to our next concept, advance against salary. Students, there are two things which you all need to remember. One is advance salary. Another is advance against salary. Again, very important things. Advance salary and advance against salary. Advance salary means that I have received my salary before it gets due. Before it gets due. It will get due on 30th April, it will get due on 31st May, 30th June. But I have received it before. Now I will not get anything on 30th April, 31st May or 30th June because I have received it in advance. Okay, that is advance salary. Advance against salary means that I go to my employer and ask for loan. Advance against salary means I ask for loan. Employer को पता है कि I have to pay salary to him or her. So he gives me an advance. He gives me an advance, just like a loan he has given to me, which he will be deducting from my salary every month. So if suppose he has given me 10,000 and हमने decide किया you can recover 2,000 each salary. Has been due. I went to him on 1st April. I said that I need some fund. He gave me 10,000 rupees and I said that okay, this is like a loan. This is like a loan. You can recover from me in the coming 5 installments in 2,000 rupees each. He said okay, I will recover 2,000 rupees each. It's like a loan which I received. आप कहीं loan लेने taxable, but advance salary is salary hence would be taxable on receipt basis because due or receipt whichever is earlier. Clear? So salary paid in advance if assessed before cannot be subsequently assessed when it is due. Leave this point, we'll come to it later. Advance salary and advance against salary. Advance salary means salary received in advance. However, advance against salary is advance, like a loan, taken from employer and is adjusted against salary over a period. It cannot be treated as salary, hence it would not be taxed under the head salary. It would not be taxed under the head salary. What are the questions? Okay, so next saying this cricketer income move to salaries and cricketers, whatever they are getting from BCCI as a term of employment, yes, it would be salary. जो वो grade A, grade B, grade C की तरह उनको मिलता है, yes, that would be salary. But whatever they are getting under the professional capacity of cricketer, like whatever they're getting from advertisements or maybe ITL also, that would not be salary, that would be professional income. Okay. Okay, and practicing how I come to know what kind of non-monetary salary particular person is receiving. So Indrapal says, how will I get to know what are the benefits you're receiving? See, the benefits thing is something which Obviously, if a person is getting a house from his employer to live in, that is benefit. You see that his salary, his electricity bills are not paid by him. You'll ask who is paying his salary, electricity bills. He says his employer. Benefit, understood. Pensions pay, Ankush, I'll come. Any benefit received from employer by the employee is my taxable salary, and it is termed as perquisite in technical term. So if you're transferring the salary to okay, sorry. So if you're transferring your salary is not coming to your account, but you say that transfer it to some other account, maybe your wife's account or charitable account, any other purpose, but you cannot say कि मेरे account में नहीं आया, so I'm not going to pay tax on it. You cannot say that I have not received it in my account, so I'm not paying tax on it. No, it was due to you. You yourself chose it to give it to someone else or some other purpose. Even if you have foregone it to some other person or purpose, still it is your salary. Still it is your salary. But yes, if you have given it for some purpose which is eligible in deduction form, you will get a deduction later. But for now, it will be a part of your salary. So, person receive incentives for achieving targets. Is it salary? Yes, I'm coming to that part. But just give me next 10 minutes, maybe we cover that. You will get all these PPTs, do not worry. How will you value the benefits? That is what our 3 classes would be about. So if there is no agreement between employer and employee for benefit, then it is considered as salary. See, benefit के लिए नहीं, आपका एक normal employment contract है where you are saying so and so things would be given to you. What all are given to you is part of your salary. Everything is not exclusively written, but whatever is written and also whatever is provided is part of your salary. If loan is not paid, in which income it will be classified? See, tell me, if you do not pay the bank loan, where it will go? It is classified as fraud, obviously, and then they charge, the income tax authorities will charge it as income. That is other thing. Okay, so quickly to revise few things. Due or receipt, whichever is earlier, means in this example on the screen, green part, my salaries got due for the month of April on 30th April, but I am receiving it on 7th May. The taxable point here would be 30th April because it got due on 30th. So due or receive, whichever is earlier. But suppose I receive on 1st April, the blue part, 1st April go my salary for 3 months. That is, I've received the advance salary for 3 months. So I've received earlier, but it is not due. It will get due for on the last date of each month. But I have received it earlier, so my point of taxation for that salary would be 1st April. So due or receive, whichever is earlier. Advance salary is when you receive the salary which would be due in the coming months before, that is advance salary. Advance against salary means that you have taken a type of loan from your employer and he would be adjusting it from your salary in the coming months. Just instead of repayment, आप दूसरे pocket से निकाल के उनको दे रहे हो, he himself is deducting it from your salary. That is called advance against salary. Okay. Clear? Let's proceed ahead. Coming to all of these things. So we say if salary is due and employee is not receiving any salary for more than 3 months and he leaves the job, then also salary becomes taxable for only 3 months for which he has not received anything. See, students, practically due or received, whichever is earlier, yes, there can be situations where the company is going into bankruptcy, they are not paying their employees. Two things can happen. If the salary is disputed, you will not tax it in that year. If you know that, yes, you will receive, maybe in the next year or the coming year or whenever, then you will tax it. Interest part pe will come, Ankita, just give us thoda time. Everything related to retirement also would be taken up, don't worry. Okay, next we move to the next concept. Salary में क्या क्या आता है? This is just a list which is there under section 17. I'm just touching the list. Everything in detail would be covered, so you don't have to worry. Salary में wages come. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Salary में wages come, annuity, pension. Annuity or pension, what is annuity or pension? You should know. Anything which is received in small amounts after a certain period of time is annuity or pension. Salary में gratuity come. Gratuity is a gracious payment for the services. Okay, gracious payment, gratitude. So you are paying something, that is called gratuity. Fees, commission, profits in lieu or in addition to salary or wages. We'll come to that. Advance, any advance of salary, advance salary. Any payment received in respect of period of leave not availed, leave encashment. We'll understand all these terms. You do not have to worry. Provident funds, contribution made by the employer to the pension scheme. All of these things in inclusions come to my total thing which is called salary. Sabko add karungi, whatever the amount comes is my salary income. What all of these now we'll cover one by one. Just a list, do not worry. So wages and allowances. Something which you are getting in monetary form. Wages ko you can say basic salary, remuneration, fixed payment, anything which you are receiving is called wages or salary, and it is fully taxable. Matlab whatever is received is offered to tax, fully taxable. Now what is allowances? Allowances, students, if I go by the definition, any fixed amount given in addition to salary to meet some specific expense or requirements. Generally, these allowances are fully taxable, but some exemptions are provided. Let me explain you. Now we are coming to structures and components of our salary. पहला हमने पढ़ा wages या basic salary या base salary, कुछ basic salary, base salary, this is all monetary. ये सब is fully taxable. Fully taxable. Next, we studied allowances. Allowances is like some component which is given for a specific nature. If I am giving you medical allowance, that is for medical. If I am giving you uniform allowance, that is for the uniform. That okay, well, come trimmed enough. If I am giving you something for books and periodicals, we are into research and all, that is a books allowance. So any expense, addition amount which is given for a specific purpose comes under the head allowances. उसके नाम से you will get to know that what is this allowance for. Now from here we are going again यहाँ से we are discussing the components of salary. सबको मिला के would become my salary. एक is basic salary which you all understood. And others are allowances. Now there are again so many types of allowances, but we'll discuss some common one. But before that, we can categorize as allowances in three parts. Allowances which are fully taxable, matlab whatever is received full would be taxable. Allowances which are partially taxable, some part is exempt under section 10. Matlab if you have received suppose 2000 rupees as allowance, which part would be exempt, other part would be taxable. So if 500 is exempt, 1500 would be taxable. And some allowances are fully exempt. So all the categorization happens like this: fully taxable, partially taxable, fully exempt. Now, students, from now onwards, I will obviously provide notes. We'll get it in the form of PPTs, but please start writing it also, start making tables also, and start understanding. We are discussing salary components. Each component would discuss everything in total would become salary. First, basic salary clear. Now we come to allowances. Okay? Fully taxable, partially taxable, fully exempt. Now we begin understanding some allowances. कौन से common allowances which are given? Let's discuss that. One very common allowance is dearness allowance. Dearness allowance means dearness is when something gets costlier. So basis the inflation, mostly government employees get dearness allowance. Basis the inflation, mostly government employees get dearness allowance. So dearness allowance is cost of living adjustment allowance paid to employees to cope up with the inflation, and it is fully taxable. It is fully taxable. आप salary structure देखेंगे, काफी companies का structures, salary is structured like there would be basic salary, there would be allowances, different allowances. 1, 2, 3, 4. There would be perquisites. इन सबको add करके salary बनेगा, ठीक है? So one such basic salary, another common allowances, dearness allowance. Basic salary fully taxable, dearness allowance fully taxable. Clear? Whenever you're computing salary, now student, this is a part of presentation and understanding. You will write your computing salary of salary computation of X person. For what year you are computing? ठीक है, यहाँ पे ऊपर लिखोगे income under the head salary. ठीक है. Sorry for the bad handwriting. Income under the head salary लिखा, यहाँ पे you will write basic salary. पूरा का पूरा taxable x amount, ठीक है. Then you write dearness allowance. पूरा का पूरा taxable x amount, ठीक है. Then you come to, now I'll come to some other allowance. Some other allowance, uska will get exemption. So usko exemption you will compute. Whatever is taxable after exemption. So if you receive x amount minus exemption of x amount, so whatever is taxable would come here. ठीक है, क्लियर? ऐसे हम अलाउंस का करेंगे. उसके बाद अलाउंसेस में एग्जेम्पशन मिलेगी. आई एम सेइंग अगेन एंड अगेन. एंड परक्विजिट में यू विल कैलकुलेट वैल्यूएशन ऑफ परक्विजिट्स, वैल्यूएशन ऑफ बेनिफिट्स टू से. You will calculate it. That will also go x amount. x amount. Total करके my salary would come. This salary would be part of my total income. But जितना simple यहाँ पे दिख रहा है उतना simple है. But there are components which we'll discuss one by one. ठीक है? So back to where we were. Basic salary fully fully taxable. Dearness allowance fully taxable. But dearness allowance for students, one more thing you have to remember is dearness allowance. You will read this term often again. In terms, not in terms of. And what is this? Please, यहाँ पे everyone, this is the crux of your salary. Everyone pays attention. Dearness allowance in terms of employment लिखा होगा. And not in terms of employment लिखा होगा. Ma'am, what do you mean by this? So you will get a figure where it would be written dearness allowance in terms of employment, dearness allowance not in terms of employment. इसका मतलब क्या है? So students, once you retire, please listen carefully. Once you retire, you get various benefits like gratuity, leave, gratuity, pensions. All of these you get as benefits, and throughout also various things or monetary things you get. So dearness allowance, which would be considered for your retirement purpose. For your retirement purpose is called in terms of employment. Dearness allowance, which would not be considered in calculation of your retirement benefits, would be called as dearness allowance, not in terms of employment. So if you are getting per month 1,000 rupees as dearness allowance, ये 1,000 rupees is fully taxable. Full 1,000 rupees is taxable. Full 1,000 rupees is taxable, as I told you. But इसमें लिखा होगा 30% is the dearness allowance, which is not in terms of employment, which is not in terms of employment, or which is not in terms of retirement benefits. That means this 1,000 is divided into two parts. 700 and 300. So 700 would be considered for calculation of your retirement benefits. 300 would not be considered for your calculation of retirement benefits. Retirement benefits actually basis se nikalte hain mostly, but unka there is a calculation. They consider some part of salary, uspe they calculate the retirement benefits. Okay, we are not coming to the point कि how do you calculate gratuity, how do you calculate pension, कैसे क्या मिल रहा है. We just have to see whether that is taxable or not and kitna it is taxable. As a person who is computing salary, we do not need to go कि कोई चीज कैसे calculate हो रही है, हमें gratuity कितनी मिल रही है. We do not need to go into depth of it, but we need to go into the depth of how much gratuity would be taxable. Obviously, first whether it would be taxable or not, and how much would be taxable. Okay, but to explain you something which is very technical, I would request your attention again. Dearness allowance, students, is fully taxable, but government has certain formulas to calculate your retirement benefits. When they say dearness allowance in terms of employment, that means that dearness allowance would be considered for calculation of your retirement benefits when they will pay you. जब वो आपको pay करेंगे, तब वो उस amount को consider करेंगे. If it is in terms of employment. If it is not in terms of employment, they will not consider that part of dearness allowance in calculation of your retirement benefits. Throughout the 3 classes, यहाँ पे लिखा होगा 1,000 rupees is the dearness allowance, 30% of which is not part of your employment. ऐसा लिखा होगा 1,000 rupees is the dearness allowance, but 30% of which is not in terms of employment. So how much you will make taxable? Full 1,000 rupees would be made taxable. Whatever allowance you're receiving in the form of dearness allowance is fully taxable. 30% of which is not in terms of employment, we do not have to consider for the taxability of dearness allowance. Ma'am, then what is the use of it? We will get to know as we proceed. Okay? Clear? DNS allowance wala part clear? Now all the illustrations would be considered. All the illustrations, either we will solve it together or we will give you as homework and we'll solve it in the next day. Do not worry. Clear, allowances, DNS allowance clear, allowances clear, retirement benefits clear. Now quickly on the list of allowances which are fully exempt. Any allowances which are paid to High Court judges is fully exempt. Allowances which are received from United Nations or organization, from you are working in United Nations organization and you are receiving any allowance, that is again exempt. Compensatory allowances received by judge, Supreme Court judges and High Court judges receive various allowances, students, various allowances. One such as compensatory allowance, that is also exempt. Sumptuary allowances which is generally received by again High Court judges and Supreme Court judges is exempt. Now, what is sumptuary allowances? Generally an allowance which government gives or which your employer gives for entertainment purpose. You know that you have to entertain visitors, you have to entertain, like a business promotion thing, you have to entertain your clients, so uske liye they give you sumptuary allowance. Allowance payable outside India by the government to citizen of India. Please, on the last point, very important, I think in section 9 maybe you have read, I am, consider yourself, in fact not me, consider yourself as a person who is working in Indian embassy of China, or okay, let's not say China, who is working in Indian embassy of Singapore. Consider yourself as a person who is working in an Indian embassy of Singapore. You are getting your salary from India because you are a diplomat. ठीक है, आप China में you are working, but you are a diplomat, right? You're a diplomat. You are working in Singapore, in the Indian embassy of in Singapore, right? Any allowances which are paid by the government आपको salary देगा, साथ में कुछ allowances देगा, government would be paying you salary and some allowances. So all the allowances which you are receiving by the government, which you are receiving from the government as a citizen of India abroad, would be not taxable, would be fully exempt. So allowances payable outside India by the government to citizen of India. Example kya? You are a diplomat working in Singapore. Government is giving you salary. Salary would be taxable if received in Indian account, but allowances would not be taxable. Okay? But yes, if the government of India is giving, government of India is your employer, central government is your employer in a particular situation, and they are giving you any allowances when you're working in India, it would not be covered here. It would not be covered here. Clear? So with this, students, we'll take a break and let's get back in 10 minutes. Okay. So in 10 minutes, we'll be back and we'll be take our journey forward to the allowances. Go fresh up yourself, eat something, and let's get back in 10 minutes. One second. Okay. So welcome back everyone. We were on wages and allowance, and until now we discussed heads of income, we discussed salary, what all is covered under salary, some important concepts in relation to salary. And now we begin with the components of salary. So we did our wages and allowances. And obviously we have not finished the allowance part. Okay. Some questions before we proceed. Dearness allowance and dearness pay is one and the same thing. I will be taking up all your heads of income. Okay, so few questions. Okay, so first sumptuary allowances. Sumptuary, see students, बहुत सारे types के allowances मिलते हैं to the judges, especially Supreme Court and High Court judges, because they have lots of other things to do. In the sense, sumptuary allowance is one such thing where you need to entertain your visitors. Sometimes anyone is visiting, sometimes X person is visiting, sometimes Y person is visiting. So uske liye you get sumptuary allowance to entertain them. It's not that you yourself are dancing. To entertain them means from including their foods and some cultural event stuff. So all those things are covered in sumptuary allowance. Dearness allowance may students remember the thing, dearness allowance is fully taxable, but you need to know technically, and why you need to know, you will get to know in the coming part, कि जितना dearness allowance मिल रहा है, whatever dearness allowance is being received, full is taxable, whether in terms of employment or not. Whatever dearness allowance is received, full is taxable, but you will see somewhere it is written not in terms of employment, in terms of employment. That will not impact the taxability of dearness allowance. It may impact the taxability later of other allowances, but not of dearness allowance. Dearness allowance is fully taxable. वहाँ पे लिखा होगा 1,000 rupees dearness allowance received, out of which 30% does not form part of the employment. How much you will tax? Full 1,000 rupees. If 60% does not form part of the employment, how much you will tax? Again, full 1,000 rupees. What is the purpose of it? Of writing it like that? One is the company will calculate the retirement benefits only taking basic salary, and the dearness allowance which forms part of retirement benefit, वो उनका purpose है. But for you, the whole dearness allowance is taxable. Clear? Yes. Now, bonuses and commission, before we move ahead, bonuses would only be taxed on the receipt basis. जब आपको bonus मिलेगा, only then you will pay tax. So you will say, ma'am, abhi to you told that salary is taxed on due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. Yes, due or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. But bonus is one such thing which would only be taxed on receipt basis. If it is declared, if it is announced, if it is said that it will pay, does not matter. Until and unless it gets credited in your bank account, only then you will tax bonus under the head salary. And bonus can be any term. Interim bonus, performance bonus, any bonus, receipt basis where you will tax. Clear? Next is commission. One second. Commission. Commission क्या होता है? Generally employees who are into sales. Generally employees who are into sales gets commission. One commission is fixed commission, कि आपको every month if you achieve so and so target, you will get fixed commission of 10,000 per month or something like that. One is commission which is based on percentage of turnover. That one commission is which is based on percentage of turnover. If you do a business of so and so crores, so on that crores you will get 1% commission, 2% commission. So jitna company ka turnover hai, uspe whatever percentage is being received. Both of them become part of your salary when you are in an employer-employee relationship, and both of them will be fully taxable. Clear? So turnover basis pe ho, fixed basis pe ho, commission is fully taxable. Next, we come back to allowances. Exempt allowances, click clear. So I was telling you some allowances are fully taxable, some allowances are partially taxable, and some are exempt. Exempt ka we discussed the list. Now we come to the allowances which are fully taxable. Isme, let's go through it. Dearness allowance we discussed, fully taxable. Entertainment allowance, fully taxable. Government employees get deduction, which we'll see later. Overtime allowance, aapne zyada de kaam kiya, you get the amount, fully taxable. Fixed medical allowance, fully taxable. City compensatory allowance, fully taxable. Any interim allowance, fully taxable. Servant allowance, taxable. Project allowance, taxable. Lunch allowance, taxable. Every day they give you 50 rupees for the lunch, taxable. कोई भी cash allowance मिल रहा है, taxable. So until and unless it is fully exempt or partly taxable, until and unless it is fully exempt or partly taxable, it would be fully taxable. जो partly taxable का list में नहीं है या fully exempt का list में नहीं है, it will always be taxable because you cannot control of how many types of allowances you will remember. Anything which is not in this list or exempt list would be fully taxable. Okay. Now, partially taxable में very common allowance is called house rent allowance. What is house rent allowance? When it is given, how the exemption is provided, let's calculate it. ठीक है. बहुत सी companies में, students, maximum companies में if you go, salary structuring में, salary structure can vary, but one such allowance which would be there in most of the company would be house rent allowance. कोई company कोई allowance दे रही है, कोई company कोई allowance दे रही है, but house rent allowance is one such thing which would be given by most of or the majority of the companies. Now, what is this house rent allowance? I told you the name of the allowance tell itself that why it is given. The name of the allowance itself tells that why this particular allowance is given. The house rent allowance is given for house rent expenses. So house rent allowance मिल सकता, सबको मिलता है. Every employee gets house rent allowance. Generally, some the companies have fixed like 50% of your basic salary would be your house rent allowance. Which again, we are not going into how the company computes salary structure. We here have to understand that again, as a person, if I am receiving, whether it is taxable or not and how much is taxable. The house rent allowance is received to meet the house rent expenses. Is received to meet the house rent expenses. So any allowance which is given to meet the house rent expenses to the employee is called house rent allowance. Now I told you students at the very beginning, allowances may say we'll calculate exemptions and then it would be taxable as a part of salary. Allowance may say कोई भी हमारा allowance होगा, उसमें से we'll calculate exemption and the taxable part after exemption would be the part of salary. So if you see this, कोई भी allowance minus exemption would become part of my salary. Okay. So house rent allowance would be given again every month or so and so. But इसका exemptions कैसे calculate करते हैं? Exemptions of all these are covered in the section 10. And exemption for house rent allowance is covered under section 10, 13A. What am I doing? Sorry. Section 1013A. Allowance में से exemption minus करके taxable component of allowance would come and that would go into salary. So how will we compute exemption? Now here comes the very, very interesting part. Exemption calculate करने के there are three categories. Three categories or three criteria. Exemption can be calculated on three criteria. The lowest of them would be my exemption from the total portion received, and hence I will get the taxable portion. Received minus exemption would be my total taxable allowance. ठीक है, अब हमने exemption कैसे करना है? So for house rent allowance, exemption calculation is provided in the section 10 clause 13A. How is that calculated? One is actual HRA received. Jitna actual HRA you have received, full would be exempt. Other is 50% or 40% of your salary. And third is rent minus 10% of salary. What all amount is the lowest of this, you will get allowance. Don't worry, we'll do the question of it. But let me tell you, actual HRA receipts, so if you're receiving an HRA of 10,000 per month, so 10,000 per month, 40% or 50% of salary, basic salary, 40% or 50% of salary. What is the salary? We'll come to that. Uska 40 or 50%. So suppose that is coming to 40, 50 or suppose that is coming to 6,000 per month, and rent minus 10% of salary. So if you're giving rent of rupees, what amount? Let me tell you. One second. So my salary per month is 15,000, 10% would be 1,500, and rent I'm paying of 8,000. So 8,000 minus 1,500 is 6,500. So which is lowest? This is lowest, 6,000. Abhi I'm coming to each component, don't worry. So 4,000 per month would be my taxable HRA. Taxable HRA, which would be included in my total salary after basic salary plus Dearness allowance plus taxable HRA. Now, what is this 50% or 40% of salary? 50% you will consider when you are living in a rented accommodation in Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, MDCK, MCDK, whatever you want to remember it as. Only these four cities if you're living, because obviously these are metro cities and the rent is quite high. So that's why they allow exemption up to 50% of salary. But except that if you're living in any other city, then 40%. Ma'am, Noida, if you're living, 40%. Delhi, only Delhi. So if you're living in UP, 40%. If you're living in Haryana, 40%. If you're living in Pune, 40%. This is not Maharashtra. The cities we are talking about, not the states. Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata. Okay. So, agar you are living the rented accommodation, if you are living in Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, mein se ek part pe, then 50% of the salary would be considered for calculating exemption. Otherwise, 40%. Rent is the actual rent amount which you are paying per month. Okay? Now, question comes, ma'am, if you are not living in a rented accommodation, will we get house rent allowance? See, house rent allowance would be given to you. If there is a standard term of contract for all employees and company ne tag kar liya, they will give house rent allowance, so that would be given to you. but it would be fully taxable. Why? Because you're not living in a rented accommodation. You have to live in a rented accommodation to get the benefit of exemption. Think from a point of view that you are a person who is getting house rent allowance. Okay? Why you would like to pay it, the tax on full amount, when you are actually paying the rent? Government is saying, "आप rent pay कर रहे हो, कोई नहीं, we will give you exemption and give the net amount as, give the remaining amount as taxable." Otherwise, if you're not living on rent, whatever you are receiving as a house rent allowance and you're not doing any expenditure towards it, you're living in your own house, then food would be taxable. Government knows कि ठीक है, if you're doing the kharcha for it, we will give you certain exemptions. If you're doing some expenses in relation to it, we will give you some exemption. Clear? So if no rent, no deduction. Now you will ask, "Ma'am, I have a house in Mumbai, but I am working in Delhi and I'm living in rented accommodation in Delhi. Can I get house rent allowance?" Yes. Work related purpose ke liye, if you're paying the rent, though you own a house, but that is in some other place. But you are living on a rented accommodation, because for that employment, you will get the exemption. Now you will say, "Ma'am, I have a house in Delhi, but I work in Gurgaon and I'm living in a rented accommodation in Gurgaon. Will I get the exemption?" Yes. Nature of employment की वजह से, because of nature of employment, if you're living in a rented accommodation, you will get the house rent allowance. And obviously, if you do not own a house and living in rented accommodation, then also you will get an allowance. Clear? But two things still here you need to remember. One is, that I'll tell you while doing the question. Obviously, ma'am, what do you mean by 40% of salary? Which salary do we have to take? Do we have to take basic salary? Do we have to take Dearness allowance wala salary? Which salary do we need to take here? Right? Obviously, you must be thinking of this question. So students, from now onwards, start making a chart for your own understanding. Jahan pe you write why I'm telling you allowance, exemption, salary for that particular allowance, meaning of salary for that particular allowance, any other points. Meaning of salary for that particular allowance. Abhi students, going forward, we are going to read some 7-8 types of exemptions. Every exemption has a term called salary as the purpose for calculation. जैसे अभी we saw HRA में they are taking salary of 40% or 10% of salary to calculate rent. तो हर एक exemption में salary word is considered, but what does that salary mean? Because अभी तो हम salary compute कर रहे हैं, right? We're computing the salary, so how we can do total salary का percentage? No, they've already defined the meaning of salary for each type of exemption, for each type of allowance. उतना ही salary you have to take to calculate the exemption. Now HRA के लिए they have said that HRA के लिए when you are calculating the salary, when you are calculating the salary for HRA, you will take basic salary, you will take DA, but only of retirement benefits, and you will take percentage commission wala. Commission which is fixed, wo wala nahi, but commission which is based on turnover, wo wala. That would be your total salary. Us salary ka you will calculate 40-50% or 10% as the case may be. I'll repeat. To calculate the exemption of HRA, which is 40-50% of salary or rent minus 10% of salary, the meaning of salary is basic salary plus dearness allowance of retirement benefits plus percentage commission wala. Commission जो turnover based commission है, only that commission you will take. Now DA of retirement benefits means dearness allowance is fully taxable, but to calculate HRA exemption, DNS allowance which you will take here would only be that retirement benefit. So in our example, the DNS allowance which you will consider for calculating HRA exemption would be 700. So if my basic salary is 1,000, HRA retirement benefits are 700, and if I get a commission of say rupees 100, so total 1,800 would be my salary per month for calculating of HRA, for calculation of HRA exemption. For calculation of HRA exemption, students, I'm repeating again, we are working like this. यहाँ पे basic salary में we wrote अपना 1,000 कितना था मेरा इसमें, हाँ basic salary में 1,000 मेरा हो गया define. Dearness allowance भी 1,000 fully taxable हो गया. HRA I received say suppose 500 per month. Exemption purpose के लिए जो 3 criteria है for computing the taxability of HRA, उसके लिए the 3 criteria which are actual HRA received, rent minus 10% of salary, sorry 500, or 40-50% of salary. उसमें salary would be basic plus retirement benefits वाला dearness allowance plus fixed percentage based commission or turnover based commission. Uska 40-50% I'll do to calculate the exemption, and 500 minus that exemption amount would be my taxable HRA, would be my taxable HRA. This is how you have to work. Now we'll do one question to understand it better. Okay, student basic pay is 40,000 per month, DNS allowance is 6,000 per month, commission is 50,000 per annum, motor car is 1,500 per month, and house rent allowance is 15,000 per month. Find out the amount of HRA eligible for exemption. Always look for what the question is asking. A question क्या पूछ रहा है? Question is the question here says find out the amount of HRA eligible for exemption. So we have to tell the exemption amount, not the taxable amount. Okay. So HRA eligible for exemption if Mr. Rajkumar is paying 16,000 per month as rent for accommodation in Kanpur. Let's do this question. Kelly, we'll write what all figures we have. Basic pay 40,000. हमें exemption calculate करना है. We do not have to give them the salary amount. DNS allowance 6,000. All of these is per month. Commission 50,000 per annum. HRA, motor car we do not have to consider. $15,000 per month, and rent which is paid is 16,000. How much HRA we are receiving? 15,000 per month, which is 1,80,000. But we need to calculate the exemption amount. Okay. Now, how do we calculate the exemption of HRA? 3 criteria, minimum of that 50% of what actual HRA received. Actual HRA received is 15,000 into 12, which is 1,80,000, right? ये हो गया मेरा पहला, correct? Right. Next is 40 or 50% of salary. 40% लेंगे या 50% लेंगे? 40%. Why? Because he's living in Kanpur. So 40% of salary. Salary क्या लेंगे? Important part. 40% तो कर दिया of what? Of 40,000 plus 40,000 plus Dearness allowance. यहाँ पे nothing is mentioned how much is of retirement benefits or how much is not of retirement benefits. So we'll take pura. So till the time anything, nothing is mentioned, so we'll take pura. So 40 plus 60 into 12, obviously. So 46,000 into 12. So 40%. It's not. 5,52,000 का 40% is 220,800, right? And last exemption criteria is rent minus 10% of salary, right? Rent is 16,000 per month, which is 10% of again same 5,52,000. So karo 16,000 into 12, 1,92,000 minus 55,200 give me 136,800. So what is my exemption amount? My exemption amount is the lowest, which is 136,800. So this would be my exemption amount of HRA. So my taxable HRA would be 1,80,000 minus 1,36,800, total 43,200 would be my taxable HRA to be included in salary. Clear? Now, ma'am, do we have to do per month calculation or do we have to do annual calculation? मतलब हम यहाँ पे instead of taking 40% of 40,000 plus 6,000 पहले per month exemption निकाल ले or we calculate it as annually. So students, till there is no change, I will tell you why. You calculate annually. If every figure remains constant, you calculate it annually. So instead of calculating per month exemption, calculate the annual exemption and then reduce it. But if the figures changes, now what do you mean by figure changes? I'll let you know that. Students, HRA exemption किन चीज पे depend है? HRA exemption is dependent on HRA received, salary, right? Rent, area of rent, anything else? No, right? Exemptions may all these components are there. Area of rent is here to decide 40-50%. Rent is obviously rent minus 10% of salary. Salary is obviously salary and HRA exemption. These are the criteria which impact my exemption calculation of HRA, right? So if any of these criteria changes during the year, meaning thereby, if in the question it is written that the rent has increased in the month of June, in a similar question from 16,000 to 20,000. So first 3 months के लिए, April to June के लिए, the rent is 16,000 and July से March के लिए, the rent is 20,000. How will you calculate HRA? This is your homework, okay? I'll give you one criteria here. How will you calculate HRA? And How will you calculate the exemption? So what you have to do is, the exemption would be calculated for 3 months period separately and 9 months period separately. Ma'am did not understand. So April to June के लिए you will calculate separate exemption. July to March के लिए you will calculate separate exemption. So April to June 3 months period के लिए you will take actual HRA receipt for 3 months, rent minus 10% of salary for 3 months, 50% of salary, or in this case 40% of salary for 3 months. ठीक है, तो वो 3 months का exemption आ गया for 3 months of HRA. Then July to March के लिए you will calculate HRA for 9 months, rent minus 10% of salary for 9 months and 40% of salary for 9 months. उसका exemption you will calculate. ठीक है, दोनों का करके exemption would come and that would be exempt from the total HRA. Let me show you the calculations. Don't worry. हमारे same questions पे if we go, let's keep the figure constant and solve it. यहाँ पे तो I calculated it for the whole year, right? Now for the purpose of just इतना सा figure change हुआ है that this rent is 16,000 per month for April to June and 20,000 per month for July to March. This table has changed now. Now please everyone on the board, first I'll calculate my HRA exemption for period of April to June. Actual HRA received कितना है? 15,000 into 3. 45,000. Rent minus 10% of salary, 16,000 minus 10% of, again, 10% of 46,000, but for 3 months. $16,000 into 3. This would come as तो ये हो गया मेरा 34,200, right? And third part is 50%. No, we are in Kanpur. 40% of salary, which is 1,38,000 ka 40%, 55,200. Which is the lowest of this? 34,200 would be my 3 months ka exemption. Now similarly, I calculate exemption for 9 months now. For 9 months, I'm doing here, HRA would be 15,000 into 9. $135. This would be not, it would be 20,000 minus 10% of salary. So 20,000 into for 9 months minus 10% of salary. and so students, here you are seeing actual HRA is the lowest. So my total exemption of HRA would be 135 plus 34,200. Total exemption would be 135,000 plus 34,200, which is 169,800, which would make sorry, my actual HRA taxable in the head of salary would be 15,000 into 12, 180 minus my total exemption 169,800, 10,200. Clear? So students, always remember, if any of the component is changing, you will break your calculation for HRA exemption over so and so period. For the purpose of HRA exemption, the component should remain same throughout that period. अगर salary change हो गया बीच में, say for example, salary got changed in the month of September, so you will calculate 3 different types of HRA exemption. One would be for April to June because the rent increased, then June to September, and then September to March. Okay, so this is just an example. Please mark homework as question number 1 on page 4.113 as a homework, and try solving it without seeing it. Then check your answer, see where you lack, and if you need, we'll do it at the beginning of the next class. Okay? On the queries thing, before I come to queries, let's just go what our PPT says. So, allowance meet expenditure actually incurred in payment of rent for residential accommodation occupied by the employee is house rent allowance. Quantum of exemption should be the least of the following: actual HRA received, rent paid minus 10% of the salary, 40% of the salary for the relevant period. In case accommodation of metro cities, Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, Kolkata, it would be replaced by 50%. Relevant period means the period for which the accommodation is occupied. And the salary for the purpose of HRA is basic salary. Dearness allowance is provided in terms of employment. Commission has a fixed percentage of turnover. Exemption will not be allowed in case of assessee lives in his own house or no rent expenditure is incurred. One should note that if that exemption on HRA is based on city of accommodation, rent paid, salary received, and actual area received. If any of these changes during the period, separate exemption shall be calculated. So we have covered it all. Now we come to your question part. Okay, so Anita asked, "Ma'am, office is in Mumbai, rent accommodation is Bangalore, then which percent it will fall into, whether 40 or 50%? Mumbai mein, if you are living, your office is in Mumbai, practically I'm saying you, okay, and Mumbai mein you have your own house, right? Bangalore and Mumbai, daily up down you cannot do, right? So Mumbai mein, if you are living and you are having your own house and your family is living in a rented accommodation in Bangalore, you will not get the HR exemption. But which is for the purpose of office, you are not living in a rented accommodation. But yes, you can claim 80 GG out of it and so and stuff. Practically, logically, but people do claim exemption. That is a different criteria. 40-50% has to be seen of the area of the rented accommodation. If your office is in Gurgaon, but you're living in a rented accommodation in Delhi, please listen carefully. Your office is in Gurgaon, living in a rented accommodation in Delhi, then you will get 50% because the rented area is in Delhi. Okay? Other points में यहाँ पे you will write for your own self that if anything changes out of rent, HRA, area of rent or your salary, then I have to calculate exemption separately, remember. Commission not taken because commission here is fixed amount. Commission here is not percentage of commission. Why commission not included in salary for the purpose of calculation of HRA? Commission वैसे you will make taxable, but HRA exemption के लिए whatever salary you are taking उसमें you will not take commission which is not based on turnover. ठीक है? Always, always, always remember that. Ria, I did not get your question. If criteria falls equal, I did not got that question. Again and again, I'm saying students, commission जो हमने ये वाला question किया, that would be taxable under the head salary. But for the purpose of calculation of exemption, the salary for that purpose is different. Only for the purpose of the calculation. Again and again, I'm saying basic salary यहाँ पे आप tax करोगे as per the question which we discussed at 4,80,000. Dearness allowance you will tax पूरा 72,000. HRA allowance which would be only taxed would be 43,200. Commission you will tax पूरा 50,000. But 43,200 So I told you one such very common allowance is my HRA allowance, Dearness allowance. These are very common. But there is also a list of altogether allowances which are partially taxable. And the exemption is given under section 10 clause 14. Ma'am, do we need to remember the section? At least for HRA, very basic sections you should remember. Exemption students, jitna bhi there are exemptions, all of them are covered under section 10. Even though the exemptions are in relation to salary, but all of them are covered under section 10. Now, section 10 के भी allowances को they have divided into two parts. Section 10 में जो exemption मिलेगा 10 clause 14 में, the exemption is divided into two parts. One is based on actual expenditure, another is based on a criteria which is fixed. I'll tell you what are you saying, ma'am. Give me a minute. told you there are lots and lots and type of allowances. Partial exemption के list में one is HRA, which we just saw. Another is 10-14 में जो भी हमारे exemptions दिए हैं for allowances. उसमें two parts में allowances exemptions are given. One is actual expenditure based allowances. Another is limit defined allowances. So limits are defined, उसके basis पे there are allowances. So actual expenditure based allowances means, so if you are getting an allowance, say uniform allowance of 10,000 per month, but you are making an actual expenditure on uniform of only up to 4,000 per month. So 6,000 per month would be taxable. So these, we will see the list, the allowances which is covered under this category, the allowances which is covered under this category, subclause 1, would be allowed on exemption only to the extent of actual expenditure. Only to the extent of actual expenditure. So whatever amount you're receiving minus actual expenditure would be your taxable amount. Simple, right? Ma'am, if we spend 11,000 per month on uniform, then what would be taxable? Nothing would be taxable. Minus 1,000 would not be there. Okay. So actual expenditure or the amount received, whichever is less. Whichever is less. This is one category. Another category is जहाँ पे we will see that there are certain exemption limits defined. Even if you are so अगर आपको कोई allowance मिल रहा है, say you are receiving tribal area allowance. We'll go through the list, don't worry. If you're receiving a tribal allowance of 1,000 per month, आप कोई tribal area में रहते हैं, because of that you're receiving an allowance. उसमें whatever expenditure is happening does not matter, but as per section 1014 subclause 2, the limit here is defined as 200 per month. Then 800 per month would be taxable. ये 200 per month इस section में लिखा हुआ है. इस section में clearly लिखा हुआ है read with the rule. This section it is written that 200 per month would be only allowed as exemption, then only 200 would be allowed as exemption, irrespective of the fact that you are spending more than 1,000 or not spending at all. But still, whatever the limit is there, only that would be allowed as exemption. So 10-14 में again partial exemption में one based on actual expenditure or received, whichever is less, another based on the limit, irrespective of the fact whether expenditure is made or not. Okay. So these are the allowances which are allowed, or the exemption is allowed on received or actual spent, whichever is less. Received or actual spent, whichever is less. One is traveling allowance. Traveling allowance means आप office के काम, and obviously exemption would only be granted when in relation to official purpose. Okay, when in relation to official purpose, because salary is official. Exemption आपको government तभी देगा when you are using it for official purpose. Okay, traveling allowance. Traveling allowance, like you are going on to tour and travels for office purpose, so they gave you 50,000, you spent 40,000. ठीक है? So 10,000 would be taxable. 10,000 if you give back, nothing would be taxable. Conveyance allowance. You have to, you are into sales. You have to go to various offices every day for getting the leads. That is conveyance allowance. So if they give you 2,000 per month, but आपका actually petrol पे 1,000 per month लग रहा है, so another 1,000 would be taxable. Helper allowance. They have given you given you an allowance, not given you the helper. They've given you an allowance that if you keep anyone for the purpose who will help you for the duties, you will you will get this helper allowance. Uniform allowance is the allowance which you need, which is given to you to maintain a uniform or to maintain a proper dress code for the official purpose. So if a uniform allowance of 15,000 per month is given to you and official purpose ke liye you are only spending 10,000, then 5,000 would be taxable. Allowances for encouraging academic research, training pursuits in education and research allowance. इसको research allowance के नाम से कहते हैं research institutions में. So research allowance, whatever you are spending on research would be given. Simple. Daily allowances to meet charges included by employee on account of absence from normal place of duty. You have been, let's just say इसको daily allowances के नाम से, you have, you worked in Delhi, आपको मुंबई में they have sent for some audit. Okay. So वहां पे you are getting daily allowance. That वहां का daily allowance is suppose 2,000 per day, but you are actually spending 1,500 per day. So 500 per day would be taxable. Clear? So all these allowance, students, with the name of it, you can see that these are expenditure based. Conveyance, traveling, helper, uniform, research, and daily. Conveyance, traveling, helper, uniform, research, and daily allowances. Clear? Next are the list of the allowances which I told you under subclause 2, which are based on limits. Isme expenditure does not matter. Expenditure does not matter. There's a quite a big list, I'll say around 15 things, but you can remember the basic ones. Children education allowance. Your government says that we know your students are going to study, they are studying, you are paying certain things. So children education allowance आपको मिलता है office से. Allowance can be of any amount, but exemption would be limited to this amount. So you have your office is paying you children education allowance of 500 per month per child. 500 per month per child. But you will get exemption only for 100 per month, and that too for maximum of 2 children. Ma'am, what is this? So let's take this example. You are getting a children education allowance of 500 per month, and you have 3 children. So how much allowance you are getting? 500 into 3 into 12, 1,500 into, sorry, 18,000, right? So 18,000 ka exemption allowance you are getting, but exemption as per rule, as per section 10 clause 14 subclause 2 would be only limited to 100 per child, maximum 2 children, 100 per month per child, but maximum up to 2 children. 2,400 only would be exempt. So out of out of 18,000, only exemption would be allowed for 2,400. Clear? So irrespective of whatever you're receiving and for how many children you're receiving, but only up to 2 children you would allow the exemption. Now you will ask, ma'am, if there's only 1 children, then how much would be allowed as exemption? Obviously, common sense. How you will get, if your company is giving you 1,500 per child per month, you're receiving again 18,000, but you have only exemption would be 100 per child. एक ही child है per month. So 1,200 would be the exemption. Clear? So maximum up to 2 children. आपको company जितना मर्जी pay करिए, whatever amount is being paid, but maximum up to 2 children only would be allowed. Clear? Similarly goes for hostel expenditure allowance. Hostel expenditure allowance, whatever the company is paying, but the exemption would be only 300 per month per child for maximum 2 children. 1 children होगा तो 300 per month per 300 per month into 12. Allowance for transport employees. ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर में जो एम्प्लॉइज हैं उनको अलाउंस मिलता है, तो दैट वुड बी एग्जेम्प्ट either 70% of allowance or 10,000 per month, whichever is less. Transport employees जो DTC buses and वो चलाते हैं उनको whatever allowances is given, 70% of the allowance or 10,000 per month. Student, this is not transport allowance. I'm saying again, this is allowance for transport employees. Okay. Tribal area allowance, if you're placed in some tribal area and you're getting an allowance, whatever allowance you're receiving, but exemption would be only 200 per month. Transport allowance to employee who is blind, deaf, dumb, disabled. 4 years back, this used to be given to everyone, but now, agar transport allowance, what is transport allowance? Allowance given for coming to office and going back to office. So whatever spending is done, that is called transport allowance. Traveling allowances, tour for the purpose of office. Conveyance allowances, because of office purpose, you need to visit different places. That is conveyance allowance in the same city. Transport allowances, allowance given for coming to home, coming to office from home and going home from office. That is called transport allowance. ठीक है, इसे commutation allowance भी कहते हैं, different things. So transport allowance का exemption is only allowed to disabled, blind, deaf or dumb employees, and that too up to 3,200 per month. Underground allowance, if the company said कि underground हो जाओ, उसके लिए whatever they are paying is another thing, but exemption would only be 800 per month. Compensatory field allowance, किसी कोई ऐसे field पे है आप, उसको compensation के लिए they are giving you allowance 2,600 per month. Compensatory modified field 1,000 per month. Counter insurgency allowance, generally CISF or army personnel को मिलता है 3,900 per month. You can go through the list which is there in your module, but children, hostel, travel, transport, underground, these are the most common one used. One second. Illustration 2, everyone, please. Mr. Srikanth has 2 sons. He is in receipt of children education allowance of 150 per month for his elder son and 70 per month for his younger son. Both his sons are going to school. He also receives the following allowances: transport allowance 1,800 per month, tribal area allowance 500 per month. Compute his taxable allowances. So let's compute. पहले हम निकालते हैं चिल्ड्रन एजुकेशन अलाउंस. पहले सन के लिए, एल्डर सन के लिए, फर्स्ट सन, he is receiving 150 per month, 150 into 12, right? Exemption would be 100 per month. So 50 per month is taxable. 600 is taxable for elder son. Second son के लिए, he is receiving 70 per month. Exemption only 70. Nothing is taxable for second son. Please do not do 150 plus 70 minus 200. Up okay, ma'am, it is allowed. No, for each son calculated separately. Clear? So 600 is children education allowance, which is taxable. Children education allowance is 600. Transport allowance. How much transport allowance would be taxable? Will he get the exemption? No. Why? Because he is not a disabled person. So pura ka pura transport allowance 1,800 into 12. $21,600 full would be taxable, right? And next was tribal area allowance. He's receiving 500 per month. So 500 minus 200, which is my exemption. So 300 into 12, which is your 3,600. So these would be my taxable allowances under section 1014. Any doubt? Total comes to कोई प्रॉब्लम? We'll come to motor car. Don't rush. We'll go one by one. We'll study allowances. We'll study benefits. We'll study retirement benefits. Everything would be covered. So, few things. This may, I think, everyone gets confused. Again, we'll write it. Transport allowance, traveling allowance, conveyance allowance, transport, traveling, conveyance, and allowance for transport of employee. I think these are the terms, or these are the terms which is confusing you, right? Traveling allowance and your conveyance allowance. Traveling allowances कि आपको कहीं उन्होंने टूर पे भेजा बाहर. For that for that purpose, if you are getting any allowance, that is called traveling allowance. ठीक है? Office tour पे you go out and you get an allowance, that is called traveling allowance. Okay. Conveyance allowance, generally people who have a no desk job. No desk job means they're into sales, marketing, and they have to go in their city from one area to another, from one district to another, from one pin code to another, and they have to travel. Travel in the sense means every day they are on field. So uske liye you get an allowance, that is called conveyance allowance. Both of these allowances are exempt up to actual expenditure. Clear? So जितना actual expenditure होगा उतना exemption हो जाएगा. No limit defined. Okay. Now transport allowance. Transport allowance is from home to office, from office to home. इसके लिए obviously you are spending petrol, stuff and all those things. You get an allowance. You get an allowance for that. हम employer हैं, आप employee हो. I understand you are spending on petrol, or you're spending on auto, or you're spending on bus every day to come to office, and then you need to go to home. So I understand. तो मैंने एक average निकाल दिया and I'm paying you 5,000 per month as transport allowance. This is what I'm paying to you. But it would be taxable in your hand. It would be fully taxable in your hand. Clear? It would be fully taxable in your hand. But if a person is blind, deaf, dumb, or disabled, then he will get an exemption of 3,200 per month, irrespective of the actual expenditure. Okay? Clear? Then is allowance for transport employees. Transport section companies में जो employees हैं who are on their transport duties, like if I am a carriage company, I give allowance to a truck driver so that जो भी personal expenditure he can meet during the office duties. During the office duty, I know कि he is a truck driver. He will go in the morning. उसका बहुत सारे एक्सपेंडिचर पर्सनल नेचर का भी होगा because of his duty. So I give him an allowance every month. I give him an allowance of 30,000 every month that I know you will go, you will spend on dhaba, you will spend on a motel, you will take a guest house, and then you will sleep, rest, traveling, refreshment, all those things. So I give him 30,000 per month in the name of allowances because he's a transport employee. That would be exempt up to 70% or 10,000, whichever is less. So 21,000 or 10,000, so obviously 10,000 would be exempt and 20,000 would be taxable. Clear? Now any question? Navneet, the transport allowance is not exempted. Why? Because the person is not disabled, so transport allowance is fully taxable. Don't worry, you will get this PPT. Any doubt, Rupesh, Payal? Sunil, I think this is a question of everyone. Why children education allowance limit is very low, but it has been since this for a longest time as I can remember, so cannot help. So your homework is to study all the thing. We have covered the allowances completely till page 4.22. Do it, solve the question in relation to it, and make small notes. See, notes which we provide or which are there in your books are fine, but your own written would help you remembering the things more clearly, recalling the things more fastly. Okay? Clear? So we'll see you in the next class. Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and take care. Thank you. Sir, done. Sir?